I'm Arya Schwartz along with Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr show where it's all about the W. We're really excited to continue to share the stories of current and past WNBA players. Today, our guest, Brooke Wyckoff, former WNBA player and current Florida State University interim head coach. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content at winsidr.com. While you're over there, check out our overseas tracker. It's live now, and you can see where your favorite WNBA players are playing overseas all in one place. And make sure free agency is still out and about. We have a free agency tracker. It is the top out there, and you will be able to understand where all the players and movement has been happening this season. We are so honored and excited to have you on the show, Coach. We feel strongly that it's important to share the stories of past WNBA players because you're the ones who created the foundation of the league we have today. So thank you, and how are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me on. I am super excited. I am doing great. And like I said, excited to talk WNBA. I don't get to talk it as much as I would like to because I'm so entrenched in this college basketball world.
Well, we are thrilled to have you here, Coach. And right now, I mean, you kind of have a little bit of a break before Selection Monday. So we'll get into kind of everything you guys are doing as a team to kind of prepare. But first, let's talk about you. I mean, you obviously have an extensive resume from playing at Florida State to then going on and playing professionally in the WNBA, playing overseas, and now you're back at your alma mater. You're your interim head coach. It's probably been a whirlwind of a year. I want to know all the things, but let's just go ahead and start with, take me to the very beginning. When did you fall in love with this game, and how did you get your start in it?
Wow. Yeah, I remember dribbling with my father when I was 5 years old. And I have no idea if I was, taller. I don't know why that happened. My parents weren't like big basketball people necessarily. But my dad put a ball in my hand and remember dribbling around with him and kind of catching the bug a little bit there. And then when I was 8, I played on my first team. And from that moment on, it was just like a done deal in my brain that I'm a basketball player. This is what I do. And when I got the, wherewithal to understand like what going to college meant and what a scholarship was, I said, and that's how I'm going to go to college. And that's how I'm going to pay for college. I'm getting a full ride. That was just always in my brain. And so what lay beyond that of after college, I never really thought too much about. But yeah, it's just been an amazing journey to think about, where my mind was back then to where I am today.
And how did you end up at Florida State? I mean, and what was the recruiting process like for you?
It was a hectic, crazy one. I say all the time to people, like, I would have hated recruiting myself now as a college basketball coach. It's like, man, I had no idea what I wanted, couldn't say no to anybody, didn't have a lot of people around me that really understood the process. So that's kind of how Florida State got in the mix. It was like I was just letting anybody and everybody talk to me, visit, all of these things. And so their staff really stuck out to my parents, especially when they came in the home. And this was fall of my senior year. This is really late. And I ended up taking an official visit down here. Again, it was just I liked it, but I wasn't sure. I was thinking about maybe going some other places. But in the end, it came down to they were building a program, and they told me that they wanted to build it around me. They appealed to my ego. Hey, there you go. There you have it. They appealed to the ego of a 17-year-old kid and said, we want to build this program around you. Thank God, like that, it wasn't, it became much bigger than that for me. It really was the perfect place to come for me. And it has been the springboard for everything afterwards. And I'm so thankful.
I mean, you are completely Seminole through and through. My goodness, I can't imagine What about influential people? I mean, I know you talked about your family, but were there any other role models, or even through the recruiting process, coaches that you looked up to?
Yeah, I remember when I was growing up and watching women's college basketball, University of Virginia, Dawn Staley and the Burgess twins and
Yeah.
Tammy Reese, like I really looked up to them. I really liked the University of Virginia. I loved watching that team play. And them in particular. So I had an idea about what the ACC was. They really gave me the vision for what college basketball for women looked like. Also, Ohio State women's basketball was really good at that time. Katie Smith was there, and play as a player, and when I would visit there, and I remember one game I went to, she broke the Big Ten scoring record for men and women that game, and again, so just being able to get a taste, whether on TV or in person, of women's college basketball was huge for me, and gave me that desire really to not only just want to get my college education paid for, but really be on that big stage and play at that level. So that I'm so thankful for that, and for the great players and teams that have come before us to give me that vision.
During that time period, what was kind of your mindset regarding the W? Because I think, I mean, you tell me,
Well, it's interesting that the WNBA started in '97, which was the summer that I started, like the summer before I started college. So it wasn't even on the WNBA wasn't really on my mind. I mean, they started to promote it obviously after the '96 Olympics, and that dream team for women's basketball. The ABL was a thing, and Columbus had a team, the Columbus Quest. So they had been in existence a couple years before the WNBA, at least a couple years. I'm not sure how many. But really, when I got into college, the WNBA was a big deal at that point for the first time ever, and it was something that I had no idea if I could aspire to. I was just starting out college and didn't know how good I would be, but definitely looked up to all this Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lovo, Dawn Staley, all those amazing players, and really was a fan. And then, ultimately my senior year it became an opportunity for me to play, which was really, really cool.
So take us through this, because you get drafted in the second round, I believe,
Yes.
to the Orlando Miracle, a team that is now the Connecticut Sun.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong at any point.
Right.
And which, for WNBA fans out there at that time, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Dee Brown, at a certain point, you were coached by Dee Brown, who's Lexi Brown's father.
Yes.
Really cool connection. I thought that was hilarious and cool. But talk to me about your draft story. I mean, like, what was draft night like? What was going to your first training camp? I mean, I would be, shaking in my shoes going to training camp, but that's because I can't ball like you. So how was it for you?
Man. Well, the draft happened, I want to say it happened during the day. Literally, I had no idea I was going to get drafted. It wasn't even on my radar. I wasn't watching it anywhere. I actually had class. And I remember I was driving to Coach Sue's house, who was my coach at the time. She and some other people, my boyfriend at the time was with her, like they were watching it. And I got a call on whatever kind of mobile phone I had. God only knows
On your
what
next
the phone
phone.
looked like. Something happened, like this is so long, but it was 2001. And
she had a Nokia at the time, I'm sure.
Something had to have been.
The Unbreakable.
Oh, and I had just gotten it. I didn't have a cell phone my entire college career. Didn't have my own computer. None of that. That's what the time period we're talking about. And they were like, "You got drafted the Orlando Miracle." I'm like, "What? Oh my God." The best part about that whole thing was the first round pick for the Miracle was one of my best friends, Katie Douglas. So it was so fun that we both got drafted to the same team. We were super excited about that. But training camp, heck yeah, I was nervous. Oh my gosh. Every year, I mean, training camp, there were a couple years that I had like a guaranteed contract, I think, but like training camp is brutal in the WNBA. I mean, it's just so few spots. And you start out there and more people come later that are coming back from overseas. I mean, it is a really hard, and, obviously exciting, but really intense time that I'm glad I was able to experience, but also I'm glad that I don't have to do it anymore as well.
Well, tell us about your game. What was your game? I've looked up some of your stats. I've watched some film, but I want to hear it from your mouth. What was
Oh
your
my
game?
God. I'm impressed you even found stats or even were able to see the film, the grainy film that it is. My game evolved. I mean, I came in and I always was kind of one of those versatile players that could defend a bigger guard or a post player. So my role on teams changed based on need in terms of that was I'd be a 3 player or a 4, at the 4 position. And I prided myself on and tried to bring value in the areas of just like doing the dirty work, playing great defense, rebounding, moving the ball, getting the ball to people that needed it, and just being one of those hustle type of players. I didn't score a lot, but there were years where I was a starter, at times, and I became kind of a 3-point shooter by the end of my career. I mean, 3-point shooter. That was because I wasn't, really swift or handy with the ball, like making moves and things like that. So I just like shot threes, rebounded, tried to get the ball to the Nikisha Sales. Yeah, right, exactly. Try to get the ball to like those other people, those big names like, Candace Dupree, Nikisha Sales, Lindsay Whalen, those people that needed the ball. So yeah, I mean that was really kind of just more of a utility player, and just versatile, I would say.
That's awesome. And what was the W like at that time? Because I mean, Rachel and I have talked to so many people about this. The old school commercials, Diana Taurasi Sue Bird at the deli, the
Yes.
Houston Comets at a lot of
In their
food related
home,
ones.
at a restaurant.
Yes, with like that's my favorite commercial because the kids just like ripping them apart on their play was hilarious. But I mean, the W's were entering the 25th season, a huge accomplishment, the longest standing women's professional sports league, from my understanding. Anybody can correct me. But obviously there's been growth, but kind of take us in the time machine. What was it like back then?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, at the beginning, and I came in in 2001. So the 5th season of the WNBA, I believe. I mean, I think my math's right for it. It was tenuous in terms of like, we weren't always sure how long it was going to last. And I don't know how that feels now for the women and that play in the WNBA. I don't know if that there's still that worry. I think as my career went along, that worry kind of dissipated. It felt more solid. But there was always, teams were folding every year. Our team moved, thankfully, but teams would just shut down. Like at one point, it got down to a really low number of teams. So it was a really cool feel. I mean, like a great honor to be there. It was fun to be playing against those people and with those amazing players in those environments. But it wasn't like, oh, this is a sure thing and this is solid. And the other thing that's so interesting coming into the league was you go from playing in college. I mean, I'll never forget this story. So playing at Florida State, we charter everywhere, just like all these top team, like just most Power 5 schools do. We charter to all our games. And one of the games for Florida State, we use the Magic carpet, the Orlando Magic's team plane. Okay. So for whatever reason, I don't know why, we flew on that plane to a game. Well, I get to the Orlando Miracle and we're on obviously commercial, traveling commercial. And I'm just like, this blows my mind. Like as a college player, I was using this organization's team plane and we can't use it as members of the organization. So, you're dealing with, and they still deal with those types of things today. I know. So like you're always just constantly aware of all of that stuff. It's a lifestyle that was, again, very intense, very demanding, very rewarding, but never really sure. And then you were done with the season. It's like, okay, where am I going to play overseas? Like that was always kind of where am I going to be, and then you come back. Am I going to make the team, the WNBA team, training camp, all of that? It's a crazy lifestyle, and just a lot of uncertainty and a lot of just like you got to just keep grinding and really believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me, that the highest levels of college basketball, the resources that are there, just the travel, the training tables, the different amount of money and just the gear. I mean, the amount of resources, especially at the highest levels, BCS levels of college women's basketball is incredible. The way they travel. I mean, and it's just, that's a whole other thing we could get on is the traveling.
Yeah.
Clearly, we've made progress, but still a very long way to go. But before we kind of jump into your coaching career and kind of how you got into that, you were with the Miracle for like a couple years, maybe 2 seasons. And I want to know a little bit more like what that was like. Where did you play? Okay, but hold on to that. Where did you play? What did that look like? And then it turned into the Connecticut Sun, which is thriving right now. Shout out to Kurt Miller, who's doing a phenomenal job, and to Coach Lee, who's done a phenomenal job. And then you ended up in Chicago, correct?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So tell me about, just in particular, I want to know more about the Miracle because that's clearly non-existent and we just don't get to hear about it enough.
It was awesome in the sense of, we used all the same facilities that the Orlando Magic did. We were owned by the same person. So we practiced at the RDV, like practice facility, which is like this amazing, like workout place, private club, but also practice facility. And we played at, what was then the Amway Center. And I don't know what it's called right now. I don't know if they built a new one. I don't know, but we played at the same arena that the Magic played at, so we had access to all of those resources. We stayed in nice apartments. We were treated really, really well in terms of in that regard. And unfortunately, after 2 seasons, the ownership decided that they didn't want to be a part of it anymore, and fortunately, we were able to move to Connecticut, and that was a whole other amazing experience, but very, very different.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Coach Tebow was a coach for you in Connecticut?
Yes, he was. Oh man. And I was with Connecticut for 3 seasons, and man, what an amazing experience. I mean, just to play for someone like Coach Tebow and the staff that he had there, to be a part of and kind of see an organization being built, but I mean that an organization that took off quickly in terms of success. In Orlando, we didn't make the playoffs. I don't think we made the playoffs either season that I was there. We were kind of struggling a little bit, and to come to Connecticut, it was like from day one, from top down, the ownership, the general manager, who's Chris Yanko at the time, like Coach Tebow, it was like, we're here to win, period. And, we are going to give you guys every resource you need, but, to be champions, but we're here to win. And we did. I mean, we made the Eastern Conference Finals the first year, and then we were in the WNBA Finals the next 2 years after that. So it's like seeing that process and how that all worked, and the player movement that they did, like the way Tebow just brought the players in that he needed to get things right, and the way he coached, man, it was an awesome experience.
And I got to embarrass you. I believe you hit a big shot in that WNBA Finals at one point. I mean, talk us through that just a little bit real quick.
Yeah, we were in the finals against Sacramento, and I made a 3 at the buzzer to put us into overtime. And we were able to pull out the win, I believe, in overtime. We did not win the finals. But I think we were able to win that game. And I hit the shot Kara Lawson was coming over. There's a great picture. We laugh about it now, but she's like, man, you hit that one on my, she had the last laugh because they were champions, ultimately, but she's like, man, there's a great picture of her like flying through the air to contest the shot. Yeah. She's like right there. And it was able to hit that. And the crowd was amazing. It was just such a cool experience playing in Connecticut in front of that crowd. It's such a great, obviously a basketball place. And just some really fun memories.
Yeah. Was real quick, Rachel, sorry, was the crowd as old then as they are? Because I don't mean that in like the negative way, but like I view the Connecticut Sun as like one of, I don't want to say the Mecca, but like it's on my list of like 3 places. Right? Like I was so excited when the Connecticut Sun were against DC in the finals 2 years ago. I drove up for one of their games just because I've been looking for an excuse to go to Mohegan to see a game. But was it always a older demographic at the games as it is now?
Are you asking me? Yes. Yeah. I didn't know who was supposed to answer that. Yeah. Well, honestly, the older demographic, and it's changing a little bit, but the older demographic is women's basketball fans. Like that, they are the tried and true, the most staunch supporters of women's basketball. We love that crowd because they're the ones that really support it. And so, we had great crowds. So there was definitely a mix, but I would probably say it was probably about pretty similar to what you saw a couple years ago.
Yeah. RA, we'll have to try to find that photo.
Yeah,
he's really good at detective work. If you haven't been able to tell, so we'll have to see if we can and put it out there in the Twitter sphere. So you also played overseas in a place that I'm extremely familiar with. Correct me if I'm wrong. Estudiantes in Madrid.
Yes.
Yeah, I've actually been there several times and usually go to Spain almost every summer. So, there's worse places to play professionally than in Madrid. What was that like?
Yeah, so I played in Spain, like all over Spain, for about I think it was a total of like maybe 8 seasons. Yeah. And Estudiantes in Madrid was my last season. Yeah. And man, what a great experience. What a way to finish up and go out. Living in Madrid, living in Spain in general is amazing. I love it. My fiance is Spanish. I love Spanish culture, and to have the opportunity, and that's just like why I just love basketball and just still am in it, because the opportunities it provides regular folks like me that would never have, I would still be, somewhere in Cincinnati, Ohio, and just doing whatever, to see the world and to live in a place like Madrid is just amazing.
I got a chance to play in Huelva at Conquero, and that doesn't even exist anymore because they just stopped paying their players. So that's how my experience went.
Yeah.
So you tore your ACL. You had an injury that kind of forced you to hang it up. And then at this point, you can't imagine what that must have been like. But you jumped into coaching, and you kind of mentioned that's not something that was kind of at the forefront of your mind. When did you decide that this was the route you wanted to take?
Yeah, it happened very organically, very unexpectedly. So I had torn my ACL at the end of the WNBA season, my last season, obviously in Chicago, and just thought, I'm done. I thought I was really old. I was 29, and I'm like, I'm so old. Like, what's next? I want to go back and slap that girl. But anyway, I just thought, okay, what's next? So while I was rehabbing my knee and kind of trying to figure that out, I had a sister who was playing varsity at high school, in the high school back home. And so I was able to get involved with the team just randomly. The coach asked me to come help out, and I was like, sure, hang out with my sister, and I'm not doing anything else. Well, that's where I caught the coaching bug. Just loved it. And I wasn't doing anything. I was just helping out. I wasn't obviously the head coach, or wasn't getting paid or any of it. And just was like, wow, I really like this. So was doing that for about 2 years. And then Coach Sue, who was my coach at Florida State and who's still the coach now, called me and said, hey, do you want to talk about college coaching? Like, I just want to pick your brain about it. Have you ever thought about it? And the rest is history. I hadn't thought about it, but it just really kind of just the opportunity presented itself, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like something I could do, and duh. I mean, I've been playing basketball for 20 years, like duh. So I'm just so fortunate to be back at my alma mater, again, like experiencing and helping facilitate the experience for these younger women that are coming through, and seeing them on their journey. It's so fun.
Well, and I think it's so fascinating. I mean, we talk to college coaches. I talk to college coaches all the time, but there's just that added element of just because it's your alma mater, because you played there, because you're working alongside, I would imagine, is a form of a mentor. And Sue Samaro, who is just a phenomenal coach, has been for a very long time, super respected. And so, I mean, just what has that experience been like? Just learning under her as a player to then learning under her as an assistant to now you're at a point where you're leading this team. And I would imagine that it's just a matter of time before you're leading a team forever.
Hopefully, I would love to do that. Yeah, it has been such a cool growth process. Obviously, you see yourself evolve and grow as an athlete, and that is like an experience, that's just, it's like no other. I mean, when you have to demand of yourself physically every single day, what that does to, your training mentally and the emotional side of all of it as an athlete. It's, we see that evolution of people and that growth and the struggle and all that. You don't see that as much as a coach, or you don't really visualize that when you're an athlete. Like, you just have no idea. But what I've loved about coaching is that it has challenged me even more and in a different way than being an athlete did, and even a more rewarding way. And I'm still just learning so much about myself, through the lens of like having to help others. When you're an athlete, you learn about yourself, but it's all because you've got to be you're all about you in a good way, like you have to be so attuned to everything that's going on with you, because you have to perform and you have to, meet all these standards. As a coach, you have to learn about yourself in terms of how are you helping others? Are you being effective in getting other people to do what you need them to do? And it's 18 to 22-year-olds at that, when you're in college. So learning under Coach Sue, who's a master at it, having been coached by her, and then watching her coach, through the lens of being a coach myself and how she mentored me when I was an assistant, and now being able to do it as the head coach this year. It's been such an amazing journey of growth for me. And I'm so thankful again for it, because it's just made me a way more, hopefully, self-aware person, a better person, and a person that's not all about me, but about others. And that's what's so fulfilling and rewarding, in life.
I just want to jump in real quick. Sorry, Rachel.
Go ahead.
I'm curious, in this experience, have you been like, well, she's teaching you about being a coach? Have you had moments of like, hey, you did that to me and that worked?
Yes. Well, I mean, totally. You see everything from the other side, like you see, gosh, you just understand so much. I think about all my former coaches and all the times that I was like, why are they talking to me like, why did they do that way? Why did they, and you're like, yeah, now I see it, like why, like I just see all that goes into it. Why? And we just question coaches so much, but they do. There should be a method to all of it and a reason behind all of it. And so what I saw and learned from Coach Sue is she just loves her players. She puts them first. She truly cares about them as people. And that is not always a natural, easy thing to do for us. Like I'm just going to love you as a person, but I also need you to win games, and help us win. But she really modeled that for me and modeled why it was important. I got to feel how important that felt to me as a player. And so now I totally understand how needed it is as a coach to really help our players understand that we care about them first and foremost as people.
Yeah. And I can't imagine, I mean, the challenges, especially talk about being thrown into the fire right now of being at the helm of this program and everything this year has brought on. I mean, COVID-19 has affected everybody one way or another, but just from a scheduling standpoint, you guys might show up to a game and find out 2 hours before that it was canceled, or just I feel bad for all the Dobos in the country. Shout out to all of you for your work and the planning and the travel. But there's so many challenges, the mental health challenges of this year, and the players not necessarily getting to be able to have that typical collegiate experience as a student to you guys. You haven't been able to physically go out and recruit or have players on campus for 14 months now. So talk about a year of just kind of embracing so much adversity. How have you grown through that?
Yeah, it really became clear early on, and I talk about this a lot, when everything shut down about a year ago, with college basketball or just in general, it was like, wow, will we play again? Will we have a season? Will we be able to, what are we going to be able to do? So when the opportunities to gather as a team, even on Zoom initially, like, okay, we're talking on Zoom, we're here, and there's still hope that we'll have a season. When it became clear that we could have workouts and come back to campus towards the end of the summer, have a preseason, okay, have a season, no matter what, then there was a ton of changes, like you said, Rachel. Like, it was just, we're grateful for the opportunity because we knew what it felt like to have the NCAA tournament taken away from us right before it started, So it was like, man, okay, we know it can go like that because this pandemic and this virus is crazy. We don't know anything about it. So we're going to be grateful for whatever opportunity we get. So that came along with, like, I had to tell the girls a lot, like, hey guys, our game was postponed or canceled because the other team has COVID, or hey guys, we have a COVID shutdown in our own program, like those types of things came, and it was just like, okay, we're going to just roll with it. And again, when we get the opportunity again, be grateful. So that really helped and we were, unfortunately it happened early on, but it really helped us to understand early on, like, that's all you can do is really, like, stay in the moment and be grateful that, okay, we can at least gather today as a team on the court and play and practice. Like, so many teams across the country weren't able to do that on a particular day, so yeah, that's what we're doing. We're staying in the moment and hoping for the best, whatever tomorrow brings.
Well, I'm very curious about this because you've gone from high school to college to the league and then back to college. How do you think that process has kind of changed for the women's game over the years?
Like, in terms of, like, getting from one level to the next to the next?
Yeah, because like in the early days, like my next question is kind of about how we feel that we're preparing these women for the pros and for college, because women's basketball, this isn't like a shocker to anyone, has not been around as long as the men's and in terms of the whole, like, apparatus and whatever.
Yeah.
So, and often people like to hate on women's basketball, and I always say that is a flawed, and you're basing the question on a lie, because we're so far behind just year wise. I'm not talking skill or anything else. Yeah. And so I'm just curious, from you, someone who's seen it all, talk to me about how you feel that has really grown.
Yeah, it really has grown. And the unfortunate part of all of it is that, especially talking about the WNBA, with the growth of the game, there's no question that the skill level has gotten better. It's evolved just like men's basketball has. You're seeing players be able to do stuff so much earlier, and athletically, just, the dunking and just things that they can do with the ball and defensively, all of those things, like, you're seeing that evolve, and kids younger and younger can do it, and just players are just better and better. What I hate is that there's still that opportunity in the WNBA just hasn't expanded in terms of, spots on teams, teams and spots on teams. And that's just so unfortunate that It's just so difficult to make a WNBA team. And there are so many great players out there, as we all know, that could be playing in the league. And that is not to take away anything from people that are in it. Like, people that are in the league are the elite of the elite of the elite. I mean, it's amazing to watch what they can do. But there is so much more talent out there as well that could just make it even stronger and more exciting. So I have seen the game evolve, like you said, like just in terms of, wow, what teams are able to do and individuals. I'm waiting to see it evolve with, the opportunity that's there. And I know the players, the WNBA players represent so well. Just so proud of that league and what they do to stand up and to say we're here and this is who we are and we're amazing and we need more, because they like to demand more. It's what they should be doing.
And I think, to your point, we always talk about there's only 144 spots in the league. With the new CBA, which also I wanted to bring this up, you talked about that uneasiness of knowing if the league was going to survive. I think often in the CBA negotiations, the league can kind of use that leverage to not give as much to the players as they rightfully deserve. But with the new CBA and teams adjusting to the new salary cap, we say 144 spots, but a lot of teams are playing with only 11 players. So that means we're talking, maybe only 130 something here. So I think that even adds to what you were saying. And I'm with you. Let's expand.
Hey, let's expand. And it's so interesting because when the new CBA came out, I was obviously like so excited and wow, this is so cool. But part of me, that part that was, still knows and lived through that, like, this may not last type of thing. Like, part of me is still nervous, like, is this CBA sustainable? Like, is the league going to be able to stay around? And I know it is, like, I'm not questioning it, but you're kind of still scarred from, just people telling you like you were saying, like using that as leverage of like, hey, this may not be sustainable, guys. You should be thankful that we're here today, which we are, but man. And so, yeah, the opportunity, to make more money, but just to have an opportunity to be on a team. Like, it would just be so nice if there were more, but I believe there will be someday.
Well, what a lot of people don't realize, and this is, Ari, we'll have an episode about this later on, but, just even this year in particular, especially those first early round, second round draft picks, it's going to be tough for them to make a roster, and that's kind of, we'll talk about that as we get closer to draft time, but between the CBA and teams like the Connecticut Sun, who are going to have to play with 10 players because of their salary cap, it's just wild. But I mean, we all hope for expansion at some point, knock on wood. We've all been hoping for that. But Coach, it's been a week since you guys left the conference tournament, ACC tournament. I can only imagine, obviously you can't prepare for anybody. Selection Monday is just a couple days away, and we don't know who they're playing yet, guys, okay? The bracketology does not come all the way here to Winsidr, and I think we got to take that with a grain of salt. But what have you guys been kind of doing this week? I mean, healing, resting your bodies, meeting. What are you doing to prepare for Selection Monday?
Yeah, we've been doing all of those things. Definitely giving the players a good chunk of time off just to disconnect. I mean, they've been going so hard since September, and it's been obviously an emotional roller coaster as well with COVID. So giving them a couple days of rest to just get away and then practicing. And when we practice, we really try to obviously focus on ourselves offensively, things that we need to tighten up spacing wise and just working on our fundamentals again. And also preparing for any like defensive looks that we might see that are different. And then on the defensive end for us, we tried to pick some teams, we picked 3 teams that ran systems that we hadn't seen this season, and so we took, we're taking a day each to obviously not go through a scout of players or anything, but to run those sets and to run that system and just kind of get some reps at defending things that we haven't seen and that we possibly could see. It's all a big guess. So it's fun to kind of just make it up as you go and just kind of try to guess and do the bracketology. But yeah, Monday night we'll have our opponent, so that'll be nice to just get back on that regular, prep routine.
I'm just so thankful to like have a selection Monday. My goodness. I mean, without having March Madness I'll never take it for granted again. Knock on wood that this goes well and these conference tournaments, finish up really well. Looking forward to Monday. But for you guys in particular, it's such a different year in terms of we're not having the different regions. Everything's in San Antonio. What are your thoughts on that?
Yep. Yeah, again, like you, Rachel, I'm so excited we're having a tournament. It will be different. It will be very different that from everything that we're hearing about the bubble or controlled environment that the NCAA has set up with good reason. I mean, this is the only way we can have this tournament and make it sustainable and viable and safe. It's going to be very rigid in terms of, kind of being locked down and not being able to really experience like a tournament environment and be out and about and see people or see the city. It's like the WNBA bubble, except we can't really we can't really leave a hotel floor really. I mean, that's kind of what it's sounding like. So again, very grateful to be there. We're going to have to get really creative on what we can do to keep ourselves entertained as a team in those off hours and, try to just stay focused and not, go nuts, just like sitting in a hotel room for hours on it.
Well, I can tell you, me personally, I miss like the convention and that, well, I'm not going to San Antonio this year. There's no reason. As anyone who's been to the women's Final Four, it's a huge reunion of just everybody and it's a blast. And I think I speak for all the coaches and basketball minds out there when we all miss seeing each other, but looking forward to watching you and very excited to kind of see what you guys can do in this tournament. Certainly wish you the best of luck. Before I hand it over to Arya, he likes to finish up with this really annoying rapid fire, so I apologize.
Okay.
I want to ask you, from the lens of both, as for the young girl out there who wants to be a basketball player, who wants to go to college, who wants to get a scholarship, to the young coach out there who wants to coach collegiate basketball, what advice do you have?
I would say to be, honestly, what worked for me was obviously you got to work hard. You got to be good at your, whatever it is as a player, be really good at what you do as a player and as a coach. But I would say to be about people first, like be the best teammate you can possibly be in whatever circumstance. And when you're a young coach, it's be the best coworker and people person that you can possibly be. Basically serve others, find ways to help others be better. Even as a player, I think I was able to get more opportunities and was looked upon a little bit with, just as a asset to a team because of who I was as a teammate, honestly. Like maybe I would definitely wasn't, there was a lot better players than me out there, but I think what I brought to the cohesion of a team was something that was valuable. And so, yeah, get in the gym, ladies, like, come on, get better, be a great basketball player, but it's about more than that. It really is. And that's the same thing for coaching. You're there. It's not about you when you're coaching. It's not, it's about everybody else. And you got to be willing to really humble yourself and be about others to be successful.
All right. Rapid fire. Feel free to take as long as you want. We say rapid fire, but like take an hour.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. All right. The toughest one, pregame meal as a coach.
Ooh, that's easy. Spaghetti and meat sauce.
Every game.
Pretty much. I mean, it's on it's pretty much every pregame meal buffet we have. Load me up. Pasta.
Have you made sure that the hotel has that on their whatever?
Our director of ops, she knows me. She's always hooking it up. She knows me. The spaghetti with some meat sauce, I'm good.
Again,
there we go. Toughest player you ever went against as a player or as a coach?
Man. I would say it's I would say as a player, it's between Diana Taurasi, Lisa Leslie, and Tina Thompson. I had to guard all three of them. Candace Parker. I mean, how can you make like Candace Parker? Like, no, like I had to guard these people. Me.
I'm sure you locked
Didn't
them
go
down.
well.
I'm sure you locked them down, Coach.
No. It didn't go well. It went really well for them. Didn't go well for me. It's okay.
That sounds like a nightmare. I hope I don't dream about that. What is your, I think you've already answered this, but favorite country to travel to?
Spain, yes, absolutely. España.
Okay. And what is your happiest WNBA memory?
Oh my gosh. Those playoff runs with the Connecticut Sun, just so fun. And I mean, like, it's the getting to the finals. Obviously, if we had won, that probably would have been the best. But like, man, just like winning those playoff runs is just there's nothing like it.
Oh, yeah. And tell me, what would you like to see in pro women's sports in the next 10 years? This is a tough one.
Just increased opportunity, like we said, just increased opportunity. And obviously if that can also be, mean increased compensation, that'd be great. But I think first and foremost, just the opportunity.
All right, Coach, thank you for joining us. I know you are headed into the best time of the year. So wishing you the absolute best on Selection Monday. We'll definitely have our eye out to see who the Seminoles are facing up against. And again, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for everyone for tuning in.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. Thank you, guys.